All right, so here we are at the CoronaCast 2.0. I'm Brandon.
I'm Will.
And I guess this time we want to talk about the Arkham trilogy, the games specifically, in case anybody's confused.
Batman Arkham series.
Batman Arkham series by WB Games.
I think that's the most persistent rumor that I'm sick of hearing is when the next one's coming out.
Yeah, me personally, I don't know that I would want another one. I'm kind of like, I don't, clearly they can't do better than City. So,
No.
I think that I'm not sure that I would want another one. It's nice to kind of fantasize about what they could do, if they added certain things, certain different game mechanics, but I mean we can get into all that.
I do want another one.
Mm-hmm.
I do, but I agree with you in the sense of where does it really go?
Yeah.
What are they really gonna do that's different? I mean, not just because of the way Arkham Knight ended.
Yeah.
But I mean, from a gameplay perspective, what else is there really left to do?
Yeah, I mean, I guess So
More Batmobiles.
To please no. Just to start off, I guess we can talk about our favorite one. I mean, I think it's obvious.
Arkham City.
Everyone's favorite one. Yeah.
I know Arkham Origins Blackgate, the one that came out for the 3DS.
Yeah, there's it's just I'm trying to think it's kind of the Dark Knight of their particular trilogy. Like the first one kind of blew everybody out of the water. They weren't expecting it, and it was good. None of these games are bad. I want to make that perfectly clear. But then it was all right, this is really good. This is well done. It happened in a bottle, and then Arkham City was their masterpiece. It was oh, you guys really, you pushed the limits of it, and then you added things that we didn't expect.
It was proof that superhero games could be good.
Yeah.
Because when you think about most Batman games that came out before that, I mean, there were some side-scrolling ones for the Super Nintendo or the Genesis. Yeah. But
I think there was a Dark Knight and a Batman Begins one that
there was a Batman Begins game, but I remember there was one Batman game I rented for the GameCube called Batman Dark Tomorrow.
Okay.
That game was awful.
Yeah, I think these were the first good Batman games. Not even
they may have been the first, maybe apart. I've never played Spider-Man 2, but I think maybe apart from that, the first truly great superhero
I did
game.
play Spider-Man 2, and that game was amazing, and it didn't have any right to be. It's funny that I guess I don't know if Activision is even is that a company anymore? Do you know?
It's a claim, I think, that's gone. Activision is still a company.
Okay, because there's a couple of games that they've made that I'm just this is a gem. You guys kind of outdid yourselves and I don't think they ever really got that much money to make particular games. And you would think, especially after the first Spider-Man game, which was really repetitive and you couldn't.
That one I did play.
Yeah, you couldn't go in the street. You died if you went too low.
And your webs, apparently you just webbed onto the moon.
Yeah.
And swung around.
Yeah,
just web it onto whatever.
And Spider-Man 2 paid attention to the fact that you had to be if you got too high, he wouldn't swing anymore.
Yeah.
And there was even a mission where you have to get to the Statue of Liberty and you have to time it with a helicopter and hang on and I imagine the newer Spider-Man game definitely took some elements from that and obviously made it their own because Insomniac Games they're great with traversal gameplay in general.
I just think with Spider-Man 2, it was that game had no right to be good because it's a movie tie-in game. These are games that basically just function as more publicity or more media. They're big commercials or playable commercials for the movie. They're not meant to be good. It's just if you're a fan of it, maybe you'll pick it up and play it a day oh, this is bad.
And I don't know that you can't access that game anywhere because I've tried to look on the Xbox store. I imagine you could probably buy it off of Amazon, but it would be nice to get a remaster.
I'm sure the rights issues are
I'm sure it's a whole thing. I'm sure I think Sony would probably own that.
I think they have the right. I think they do have some kind of exclusive rights to Spider-Man.
Yeah, particularly the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man because that it was based on that character in those movies.
Yeah.
So and the funny thing is I think the worst part, one of the worst like cheesy scenes in the game was like the best scene in the movie where you're fighting Doc Ock on the train, and like they didn't have the technology to recreate it like properly. Yeah. So like it was definitely like cheesy, but then like other than that, like the swinging felt so good. Like there was a whole momentum based system, and again like the webbing was really well done. Like not that it stayed around forever, but like if you were swinging and then you stopped for a second and turned around, like you could see your web hanging off of a building, which is pretty cool.
Not to get too off topic, how much of a mess Spider-Man leaves?
Oh yeah,
just on a daily basis, just like a bunch of webs hanging all over buildings. Like
maybe it just like dissolves and evaporates.
Someone's got to clean that.
It's probably it's probably biodegradable. I feel like Spider-Man's conscious like that.
Fair enough.
Yeah, so I guess moving on to
the thing that's funny about this, I found this out the other day, is that Arkham Asylum came out of a failed Dark Knight game.
Yeah.
So the story is that I think EA had the rights to make a game based on Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight.
Yeah.
And there was pressure on the studio making it under them. I think it was Pandemic Studios was the company that was working on it at the time. And I think Pandemic, I can't think of the top of my head. I know that there's probably one game out. I think they did the Battlefront games actually for Star Wars.
Oh, like the older ones?
Yeah, the newer ones are, well, Disney. There's another podcast.
Disney, but, I mean EA.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But there was pressure for them to do it and have it out in time for the release of the movie. They couldn't do it. So they just completely canceled the game and shut down Pandemic Studios. So the license was up in the air. So the main studio, well, obviously WB Games publishes it, but the main studio that works on at least the 3 main entries is Rocksteady.
Yeah.
And Rocksteady was a nothing studio at the time. They had made one game. I don't even know what the name of said game is, but I think they had worked on one game prior. So they had no credentials, nothing to go off of. And I think Eidos, I don't know how to say it, the company was like EIDOS.
Yeah, I think it's Eidos.
I think that they were involved in some way, shape, or form. So this game, and just kind of going off of Dark Tomorrow before, that game was terrible. Like it played like an old Resident Evil game. It had the fixed camera perspectives and the tank controls. I remember when you beat up bad guys, you had to individually go up to each one of them and handcuff them.
Yeah.
It was just, I feel like you had that. There was like an Aquaman game that came out around the time. There's Superman 64.
That might be the worst superhero game ever made.
Yeah.
Like, that game was broken. Like you had to flip a coin on whether you were going to get to the next continue point, because it's like, oh, you're there. Oh, you fell through the floor. Mm-hmm. Oh boy.
The game crashed on you. What are you going to do? You know? And I remember when I was a really little kid, I had the Batman and Robin game for PlayStation, which also was an open world game, and you could drive around the Batmobile and you could play as Batman, Robin, and Batgirl. It was terrible. It was bad, but it was a noble bad.
Yeah.
Because that's a very bad movie, but the game tried. I think it was a little too ambitious for the time.
Mm-hmm.
So when I first found out about this game, there was just a couple, I think there was a trailer that I didn't see, but I saw a couple stills from the game.
Yeah.
I was immediately interested just because of the style they were going for.
I'm going to be perfectly honest. I was obviously an IGN head. So I was always just kind of looking at IGN,
mm-hmm.
and I'd never experienced, I would never think that there would be a good Batman game. So I saw the stills too. And one of the first stills I saw was of Killer Croc. And I'm like, what even? And I honestly thought it was fan art. I'm like, this isn't a game.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's some really cool fan art. That's cool. That looks crazy. And then I saw the trailer, the very first trailer they showed.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, this is a thing.
Yeah.
And after I saw the trailer and I heard Mark Hamill's Joker, and I'm just like, oh, well, they got the people from the animated series, so maybe I should, look at this. And then I saw how they were doing the hand-to-hand combat gameplay and just the Predator mechanics, and I was like, they're actually trying with this one.
I think that's what helped, is that it gave it almost instant nerd cred because they had Kevin Conroy, Mark Hamill, and in the first game, but not in the other ones, they had Arlene Sorkin, who played Harley Quinn on the animated series. Yeah. So they had the three, for every Batman nerd, their three favorite people to play their three favorite characters all came back. And I think the thing I like a lot about the Arkham games really is the tone, because you think about when this game came out was the year after The Dark Knight came out. It's like the second one for Nolan's trilogy. And you think about the tone of that movie, where it's very dark and gritty, but it's also very grounded. Yeah. I mean, obviously, there's still fantastical elements about it. At the end of the day, it's still a movie about a guy dressed up as a bat punching bad guys. But you think about that movie, and it almost seemed... I like those movies. Like, I don't want to say I dislike them, but it almost feels like Christopher Nolan was ashamed of the fact that it was a comic book. Yeah. So it's basically like as real to life as it possibly can be. Yeah. Like, there's still going to be a Batmobile, and, you know, there's still going to be some things about that are a little comic booky, but as grounded as possible. And with Arkham, the thing that I like is that it goes for that same dark, gritty tone, but...
goes full comic book.
It does. Like, it still has the same kind of whimsical, silly parts of the comic book, and is unashamed to have it in there. Yeah. I mean, you still have the insane villains.
Because it works so well. Like, and it's all about who you have as your cast. And when you have Mark Hamill and Kevin Conroy, and they're just delivering their lines, they're believable in these because they've been these characters for decades. And like, those are, like, to me, that's who Batman and Joker are. So
the other thing, too, is that for the story, it was written, or at least in part, I don't know if he was the only person who wrote it, but he's definitely the main one, was Paul Dini, who wrote a lot of episodes of Batman the Animated Series. I mean, kind of going off of that, I feel like for a lot of Batman fans, that animated series is the definitive take on Batman for them. Yeah. Or at least the closest in tone and spirit, because I think... the thing that I like about the Arkham games is that they're clearly very faithful to the Batman mythos and lore. And when you look in the games, there's tons of Easter eggs and, you know, little winks and nudges to the deeper lore of that universe. But it does kind of go in its own direction. Like, it's its own canon. Yeah. So it's not tied to, I guess, whatever. Like, I'm assuming the main canon would be the comic book. So it is its own thing. And in that sense, it can make its own story decisions. I mean, I think the biggest one obviously is at the end of Arkham City. Yeah, which we'll
get to.
Yeah. And I mean, like, it was even like, I like the design of the suit in Arkham Asylum, because like it looks like Batman, but it's not like... I like the gray and black look. There's one thing, I've said it before, that annoys me with the movies is like, the
black Batman.
I don't like the all black suit. Like, I think it worked for the Michael Keaton one, but other than that, I always wanted to see that, and I like how in this game they have that, but I get why they don't do it, because it could look silly, because it might just be just like spandex. Yeah. So I kind of like that the material looks almost like it's this like durable armor that he's wearing. Yeah. He still has the undies, which is a little like they could have lost that. But otherwise, I just love the look in the game. I love how like the gauntlets are big and bulky. Like this is not a guy that you want to mess with. He's got it. I feel like it takes that comic book look and like takes something that could potentially look silly and makes it look threatening and menacing.
Yeah. And one of the things I really enjoyed, and I kind of hope they adopt this in the movies someday, is so his eyes aren't exposed. Like, he has like a mesh over his eyes, and it creates like a whitening effect, and it gives Batman that cool like wide-eyed look. And like, I think that could work really well in movies if it's done properly, because it's not like it's completely white. Like, you can still see his, like, especially like, I'm sure everybody did this at some point where they zoomed in all the way to Batman's face, and you can see his eyes moving around like behind the mesh, and like, that seems very practical to me. I was like, I wish they would try that at least in a movie. And I think it would work really well. And then just all the villains, they just looked so interesting, and it almost looked like they were all done by different artists. You know what I mean? Like, they were all so strikingly different, but like they all still fit in the same world.
Like, because the Joker in that game definitely has like a Jim Lee look to him. He's very tall and gangly. But I remember I guess like with Harley Quinn, that was the first time that they'd redesigned that outfit. 'Cause I feel like up till that point, for the most part, it was always like the red and black jumpsuit from the cartoon, and that kind of carried over into the comics. And I mean, granted, it's definitely a fanboy design.
Yeah.
In terms of it being a little kind of...
she's almost wearing like a tutu.
Yeah.
In certain parts.
A little skimpy. But I mean, it was a redesign. And,
people love it.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, the characters today are based off of that design, so...
Pretty much. I mean, the one thing I was actually going to say, going off of the mesh before, I think the biggest influence of this game, because I feel like every game has this now, is detective mode.
Yeah.
It's like any game. I think they put it into like Assassin's Creed.
That's Assassin's Creed's whole thing. They put it into
every game now, where it's like, well, you have to have a mode now where you can really scan the environment.
You can see through walls, and it's like, and we're going to point to things of interest for you so you don't have to work as hard. And it's like, it worked really well for Batman. One, because like it was the first kind of its kind, and it made sense. It's like, oh, like that's really cool. One thing that somebody did complain about, though, is that it kind of forces you to not be a detective, because it's just like,
in the first game, yes.
Here's the in the second game, they definitely implemented a lot better.
They did, yeah. I think as the series went on, they got better with it. In the first game, it sort of was just play the whole game detective mode.
It was a means for you to see through the walls.
Because I guess one of the games I played very recently was The Last of Us, which was a good game. But I remember at one point, even that kind of has a detective mode.
Yeah.
And I feel like in Batman it makes sense because he has high-tech gear, so for him to have the detective mode, like, this makes sense in this universe, whereas in The Last of Us you're just a dude or the young woman that he's with at the end of the apocalypse, and you have ultra hearing. But in ultra hearing, you could see the silhouettes of people from far away, and it's like, that guy has really good hearing for just being like a 50-year-old guy.
Yeah, he's Daredevil.
Yeah.
He's Daredevil. That's Daredevil's future, clearly. Like,
but what was because I remember when Arkham Asylum, that came out September 2009. I remember I was a junior in college when that came out, and I feel like for like 5 or 6 years, like, I didn't really have a video game system, and I got out of playing video games, but I did play Arkham Asylum because my roommate at the time had an Xbox 360, and one of my friends had the game and beat it, so he loaned it to me. And that was probably because that was a game to me where, like, at that point I'd kind of gotten out of playing video games, but I saw that and was like, I want to play that. I'm a big Batman fan. He's my favorite superhero. So I actually did play that game when it came out.
You know, I definitely did, and I was definitely like a video game head at that point. Like, I kind of just started a fraternity, and like we had like a house like me and my fraternity brothers had a house together, and like I remember I was playing that, and I played it a lot, like kind of like I think it had snowed that winter, like I think that was the most I was playing it. And so one of my fondest memories like of that experience is like I was playing like the Killer Croc boss fight, and it's very much like a horror movie where like you're kind of creeping around on the little docks in the sewers, and like if you go too fast he pops up and he eats you, and if you take too long he pops up and he eats you, but then like there's some times where like time goes by and he pops up anyway, and you have to turn around in time and throw your batarang. So like I remember my friends or my roommates were watching me do that, and like I finally got past the part, and like they saw how it all played out. And like they were not playing the game, they were just watching me play it. And my one roommate just said, I think this is the best game I've ever seen. And I was like, I know, man.
It's like, one of my favorite games.
It really is. Like it got me back into games like that, because like I was playing the Assassin's Creeds, and like they definitely gotten repetitive at that point. And I think like I was still playing like Halo 2 and 3 were out then, and like I got like in that house we were playing Halo 2 a lot, just because like you had the couch co-op online mode, which was amazing for that particular environment. And then besides that, it was Smash Brothers. So like I was like, those were my two games, was Halo and Smash Brothers, and I was like, there's nothing else that I really want. And then that game came out, and I was like, I might be into action adventure games again,
because it perfected what a superhero game can be. I feel like, I mean, I do think with certain superheroes, I think it would be difficult to center a game around them, Batman has always been. I feel like Spider-Man 2 is pretty easy to center a game on.
Yeah.
Which I think is why those two heroes have had so many video games.
Yeah.
But that game really made you feel like Batman. I mean, you have 3 basic things in the game. You have the combat, you have the Predator mode, and you have more of like the navigation platforming aspect of it.
Yeah, because there was a handful of puzzles in the first one for sure.
And the combat's perfect because I feel like when you look at a lot of superhero games in the past, it's just like a punch and a kick button. Mm-hmm. And then there may be like combos you have to recognize, and it gets confusing. And I feel like it doesn't make you feel like the character because it makes you just feel like you're button mashing. Whereas in this game, you technically are doing the same thing.
Yeah.
But I like how the combat is so fluid, and it's also the combat system was originally predicated on the fact that it was going to be almost like a rhythm game.
Yeah.
Because you have this system of pressing the attack button, but knowing when an enemy attacks you, when to parry, and there are different enemy types, so there are different ways that you have to take them down. I feel like when you get a good flow going in that game, you feel like I feel like the point of any game like that is to make you feel like a badass. You want to feel like someone like Batman, who is an expert martial artist, like knows how to take people down without even blinking, and it's a perfect combat system that's very easy to learn but difficult to master.
Yeah, and then they also went the extra mile. This was not DLC. Like they went the extra mile for the end game content where you could play all the fight scenes again and try to get like a really high score, and you could unlock more outfits and more gadgets, and that always felt really rewarding to me. Like I remember I think I beat it and I kind of walked away from it and I turned it back on. I was like, "Oh, I can still do all of these things."
Yeah.
And like I went back and I'm like, this feels really satisfying.
I think my favorite thing with any of the games has always been the Predator mode, though. I feel like, I mean, apart from like when you actually get to feel like a detective and, you know, look at a crime scene and do Batman stuff, like I think I love those rooms because, like, once again, it's very difficult. Like, you know, you can obviously be spotted, but I think there's a part of your brain that's like, I want to do this without any villain finding me.
Yeah.
And I want to do it in the most creative ways possible. Like I want to hide under some boards and pull them down. Like that makes you feel like Batman. I like how you take out thugs and they start to get more and more frightened because I feel like if there is any game where you get insulted all the time, it is the Arkham games. Like how many times you're like, we're going to kill you, Batman. Like you're not so tough. I'm going to crush your skull. Like, everybody's saying that constantly. Like in every Batman game, every 5 seconds, I'm gonna kill you, Batman.
Yeah. Well, even like, cause even the movies haven't really captured that feeling where it's like you're kind of hiding like just beyond the shadows, and it's like should I move out of the way or should I just trust that this guy's not gonna look over here, and then like because of that, like I'm gonna take him out and then like it's gonna create this entire other situation with the other like goons in the room.
Yeah.
So I guess now that we've kind of gushed over this game, I guess we can kind of talk about some of the things that we think were missteps in it.
For me, I can only think of 2 things. I mean, I guess to end my point before, the thing I like the most about the Arkham games is that most superhero games just felt like beat 'em ups up to that point. And like you said, it's more of an action adventure game this time. I like that. My 2 biggest gripes with this game, one is a lot of the boss fights are underwhelming. And I feel like number 2, the way the story ends in the final boss to me is very underwhelming.
Yeah. Like I'd have to agree with you on like the final boss. Like the Bane fight was nice when it like the first time because it was Bane.
Yeah.
But then they decided that they were gonna redo it like for every fight scene like after that. Like I did like I liked most of it. I found it weird that Robin wasn't even mentioned really in it, and like granted, like we'll get to that in like Arkham City, but like it was it felt like it was missing something, I guess, on the back end for me in that regard.
I sort of like the fact, because this is something I wanted to mention briefly before, is that it feels like all the following Batman games just crammed everybody in there.
Yeah.
I do like the fact that this game limits its roster of villains, and because I think on the supporting end, it's just Oracle in the game.
Yeah.
There's no Alfred.
Well, I guess let me
Robin.
substitute Robin for the Batcave. I wish that there,
a little tiny one.
Yeah, like there was like a satellite Batcave that's like, oh look, of course I have a Batcave under Arkham Asylum.
How do you build that? Like how do you sneak all that stuff in there?
Yeah, who gave you the
comic
permits
book
for
logic?
that? Yeah, like that's like I was like I feel like Batman, but I would really like a Batcave right about now.
And then
but I do like the whole like Batman's against like the army of villains, and they do it in the story in a really well way. And I forgot to mention this before, like I did really enjoy the Scarecrow, like, and I'm sure like most people enjoyed the Scarecrow moments because like when you have like as a creator, when you have complete control over what your audience is gonna see and what they can do, the fact that they could still like do the things that they did, and like knowing somebody was gonna have control of the camera and they were still able to freak you out and scare you and surprise you, and I'm like, how did they know that I was gonna turn the camera that way? Like that's kind of ridiculous.
Or they make you think the game is broken.
Yeah, like that was, I think that
pretty
was
ingenious.
Yeah, I was like it happened. I was like, I love this game. Like,
well, I was scared because it wasn't like when I played it wasn't my game. I was like, oh shit.
And it was also 360, so you're like Red Ring of Death. Oh no, like it's
And then the game restarts. You're like, oh come on. Then you look at it, it's like, wait a minute.
Yeah,
this is different.
Yeah,
like, oh, I see what you did.
Yeah, it's like I guess
good job, game.
To kind of explain what happened. So like the game starts. The way the game opens up is Batman's driving Joker to Arkham Asylum. And they're doing like different camera angles. They show you that Batman's driving. They show you that Joker's in the backseat giggling, and then like the interesting thing is that like if you start pressing buttons, like it gives you the option to press B to skip it, and so like so like when that happens and like later in the game you get infected by Scarecrow's toxin, and the game like kind of like goes to static and then it goes black. And then it restarts, like the game's restarting and that scene's happening. And if you try to press buttons, I don't know if you did that, a J pops up instead of a B.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Like I'm like, it's like a purple J. Like it looks like the B button, but it's it's a J button. And like you press it, but like it keeps pressing it and nothing happens. And like instead of Joker being in the back seat, it's Batman and then the Joker's driving. And then it gets back there, and then instead of like Gordon helping you in, it's the Scarecrow helping the Joker in, and like it's basically the intro from the Joker's perspective. And I'm like, this is nuts,
amazing.
Yeah, it was very well done.
It's like because I think it's a pretty classic Batman trope for him to question his own sanity.
Yeah,
and to see if he's really that much different from the people that he puts away into Arkham.
Mm-hmm.
So I really liked those sequences. Like I wouldn't necessarily consider that a boss fight, but I do love those sequences. Yeah, like but I feel like because there's the Poison Ivy fight, which is a little awkward.
I don't even remember it, to be honest.
It's a very awkward camera angle, and it's kind of feels out of place in the rest of the game.
I totally forgot that she was in it.
And then well, I think because the villains in the game, you have Joker, Harley Quinn.
Yeah.
You have Victor Zsasz, but very briefly.
Yeah.
And other than that, you have Bane, Poison Ivy, Scarecrow, and Killer Croc. And I think that's it.
Yeah.
Oh, well, you have the Riddler side missions.
Yeah.
But he never physically appears in the game.
Mm-hmm.
But I've always wondered, though, too, like, how he had the time to put a bunch of trophies all over the asylum
and in these places that it's hard for even Batman to get to.
Yeah, like if someone found it, like, oh look, a question mark trophy. It's kind of cool.
Like that's that was always funny.
Comic book logic, video game logic. I mean, because that was like another point I wanted to bring up before is that obviously the following Batman games are a far bigger open world, but I love how claustrophobic it feels in Arkham Asylum, where you're really stuck in there with these people. I mean, you have the island itself, so it's not all contained into one building. It's obviously a very small open world, but I love that claustrophobic feel to it. But I guess going back to the point, though, like I found that a lot of the boss fights underwhelming, because even with the Killer Croc one, like I like the idea of it. Mm-hmm. I think it's clever. I think it overstays its welcome a little bit.
Yeah, like
it goes on a little too long.
It takes too long to get rid of him.
Yeah,
and then like if I'm being honest, like I kind of got annoyed with like the gargoyles in every single room.
Oh yeah.
To like it, and granted, it was a gameplay mechanic, so you could do the whole predator thing, and I'm like, this is cool, but like, it'd be nice if like it was realistic, and then it was just like, there's no gargoyles in this room. What are you gonna do? And it's like, oh man, how am I gonna not get seen here? So like that would have been a really cool thing for them to kind of.
Aren't gargoyles usually on the outside of a building too?
Yeah.
Not like inside.
Well, it's Gotham, so there's gargoyles everywhere apparently. Like that was, and granted, I guess like there was limitations to what they could do, but like I feel like they could have added something else to kind of like substitute that, like maybe a little bit. There's like a few more like
I guess because
walkways up in the rafters or something like that.
Yeah, like they want to give you an eagle-eye view just so you can kind of make your plan of attack, but I feel like they fixed that a little bit in the following games by like it's not just gargoyles, it's other things. And
yeah,
they give you other.
So we can get into like I guess city next. So
well, I think because the other thing about it too is that final boss fight and the way the game ends.
Yeah,
like I feel like. The story of the game, if you haven't played it, is that the Batman arrests Joker, and he's kind of worried because the Joker doesn't really put up a fight. He's taking him into Arkham, and you also find out that there's Arkham and then there's Blackgate Prison.
Yeah,
and all the people from Blackgate Prison have been transferred to Arkham because there's like a fire or something.
Mm-hmm.
And the Joker takes over Arkham, and Batman's trapped inside, and he tells the police that if anyone tries to come into the island. Other than Batman, I have bombs set all over Gotham City. I'll blow them up. Mm-hmm. So Batman's on his own. And you find out that there's something called the Titan formula that's derived from Venom, which is the stuff that powers Bane, like that green neon stuff that pulses through him, because Bane looks like a giant bicep in this game.
Yeah.
Like he just like he's usually like a big strong guy, but in this game he's like really strong.
Like he's got muscles on his face.
Muscles on muscles.
Yeah.
And you find out the plot of the game is that there's a person at Arkham researching this for the intention of using it on patients so that they can survive more invasive procedures. Mm-hmm. Obviously, it doesn't work the way it's supposed to. Joker intends on infecting the patients of Arkham with this Titan formula that turns them into big, bulking monsters that you fight like 10 million times in the game.
Many.
And he wants to unleash them onto Gotham City. Mm-hmm. So Batman stops them, but at the end of the game, he gets, like, the Joker has, like, a dart gun with it. You get injected with it. Mm-hmm. And then I remember, like, your arm is bubbling up. But, no, Batman's will is so strong. He can't get
chemicals
titanized.
Cannot affect Batman.
Well, I think he, like, gives himself some kind of antidote or something. Yeah. But basically, the final boss fight in the game is Joker injects himself the Titan formula. Mm-hmm. You fight a big, giant mutant Joker, which and like I said, this is a comic book game. Mm-hmm. Like I can give it a break in the sense that like obviously the story is going to be silly to some degree. I think a story where it's predicated on a clown injecting people with a formula to make them the big strong people and then unleash them on the Gotham City is ridiculous, but like I buy it within the Batman universe. Yeah. Like it's fine. I'm engaged with the story. When he becomes giant, big, huge hulking Joker, I was like, this is dumb.
Yeah, it was.
And the boss fight's anticlimactic.
Yeah, it was just like, okay. Like, because you'd done it like 7 other times.
Yeah.
Like right before that, you're like, you had to go through like 5 Banes to get there. Mm-hmm. And then you're like, here, all right, here's Joker Bane. Yeah. And I'm like, but no, like, why?
It's like you look at all the other Arkham games, and a lot of them have pretty significant endings. Like they have impactful, meaningful endings. With that one, Arkham Asylum at the end just feels like a day in the life for Batman. Yeah, it's just like you stop the Joker, everything's okay. Like I do like the part where I think I remember the end of the game, Commissioner Gordon, because he's in the 2 apart from Oracle. He's like, well, you can get some rest now, and then he gets like an APB or something where it's like Two-Face is robbing a bank, and Batman's like, gotta go. Yeah. So it's like you just had this whole ordeal happen, and Batman's night's not even done yet. Yeah. This is just a thing that happened to him tonight.
Yeah. It's just kind of ridiculous when you think about it. But hey, that's Batman for you.